for probably murder, okay? As long as, and with him as well.
Absolutely, I'll take, yes, I did that.
So the gig's up. You're dead.
Besides being honest, my attorneys, even that, I haven't been completely honest with them, so.
You hated your mom?
I did not hate my mom. She deserved it.
I can see right through it.
I don't associate myself as a murderer. I can't kill anyone.
You are watching Trixie Lane, the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, Truths Unfold.
Some medical record where Dee Dee essentially lied to the doctor about something. Mentally, Gypsy is behind. She's at the level of a 7-year-old on mother's information. And this is something that you see almost across all of the records, is upon mother's information, upon history by mother. So she's talking to the doctor here, and she's talking about how she has mental and developmental delays, needs assistance. Apparently, while holding her hands over Gypsy's ears so as not to offend history of mental retardation, 7-year-old level per mom. And so this was the one time where a doctor actually put in the record that Dee Dee's got her hands over Gypsy's ear.
Let's pause for a moment. For those unaware, this is Mike Stanfield, Gypsy's public defender, funded by the state of Missouri taxpayers, alongside her father, Rod Blanchard, and stepmother, Christy Mathern Blanchard. This clip is from the TV documentary, Mother, Dead, and Dearest. I'm pausing because Stanfield mentioned this is the sole documentation of Dee Dee covering Gypsy's ears. One time. It seems plausible to me if the intention was to deceive people, I too would want to prevent my child from hearing the term retardation. However, it is worth noting that in the documentaries, Dee Dee rarely spoke directly to the doctors. Gypsy usually did. Much of this interaction is recorded in Gypsy's medical files. Let's proceed.
I don't know why these procedures were done or how her mother was able to convince the doctors. Mind-boggling is the only way I can put her ability to manipulate people.
You do know, Mr. Stanfield, because Gypsy manipulated you.
Besides being honest, my attorneys, even that, I haven't been completely honest with them, so.
Now, this was the first one that jumped out at me. She ends up going to the neurologist, Dr. Flasterstein. And so, very first thing right off the bat, mother is not a good historian, which is interesting because he puts that in bold and underlines it.
Do you know why that is, Mr. Stanfield? Probably because Dee Dee was going from doctor to try and find out what is wrong with Gypsy. Spoiler alert, it's a microdeletion chromosome disorder, which is also in her medical records. But you knew that, didn't you? Let's keep going. As this states, Gypsy is an almost 18-year-old young lady, which no, she was not. She was almost 22 during this visit, with a 2.74 mega-base deletions of chromosome 1q21.1, with resultant mild global cognitive impairment, generalized epilepsy, and vision impairment. She also has a history of syrinx, which is in regard to your spinal cord, at C7, which is cervical nerve 7, and it controls your triceps and wrist extensor muscles, and C8, which is cervical nerve 8, and it controls your hands and gives sensation to the pinky side of your hand and forearm. And a history of flaccid diplegia, which I am not completely sure does not have a component of conversion. Okay, let's pause right there. And if you recall, in some videos Gypsy did early on in her alleged pregnancy, she has complained often of her leg muscles feeling weak and tired, almost a tingly or numbing feeling. The muscles almost become limp and cannot contract. That is what flaccid diplegia can cause, which is also a side effect of her chromosome disorder. Finally, she has a history of generalized epilepsy, which is rather well controlled with Keppra, although she did have a few breakthrough seizures over the last few months. This visit was also done May of 2013. I would like to note that I do know some with a history of epilepsy, and there are several different types. Because of her disorder, she had a form of it, but that does not mean she couldn't have outgrown it or roll through everyday life with her Keppra preventing a seizure from taking place. I'm not seeing any notations of grand mal seizures in her records that show any indication that her epilepsy was serious at all, but just a side effect of her chromosome disorder. However, I am no expert.
I think the initial reaction is that Gypsy's been lying to everybody.
But wait, let's rewind here. And start back to where Stanfield first became associated with Gypsy.
Gypsy Blanchard, the woman charged with killing her mother, Dee Dee, along with her boyfriend, set to make another appearance today in Wisconsin County Court. Reporter Colleen Henry has the very latest in this bizarre turn of events.
Wisconsin versus Gypsy Blanchard.
She walked into court, no wheelchair, no signs of medical distress, but she spoke in the voice of a child.
2103 West Volunteer Way, Springfield, Missouri.
Friends believe Gypsy Rose was wheelchair-bound and suffered from leukemia and other diseases. She now faces the death penalty.
This individual is alleged to have conspired with Nicholas Godejohn and asked him to stab her mother to death so that they could be together.
The couple appeared in Waukesha County Court to start extradition proceedings to Missouri. Family told 12 News the couple met online, that Nicholas Godejohn traveled to Missouri and stabbed Dee Dee Blanchard at Gypsy's urging. Police say they took a bus back to his home in Big Bend. The Gypsy posted profane comments about the killing afterwards.
Things are not always as they appear.
Gypsy Rose and Dee Dee Blanchard appeared in articles on TV and online soliciting support for Gypsy's medical treatment. The Missouri sheriff is now unsure if she's sick at all.
Use caution in donating money to this family at this time, as we have unearthed the appearance of a long financial fraud scheme.
Now, Blanchard and Godejohn, they're being held on $1 million cash bail. Now, the couple, they'll be back in court to say whether they plan to fight those extradition efforts to get them back to Missouri so that they will face murder charges.
So what you are seeing here, this is the case file for Wisconsin when Gypsy was arrested and facing extradition. If you pause for a second, you see right here, Gypsy was not appointed a public defender in the state of Wisconsin until June 17th, 2015. It's pretty standard to have a wait period when you're applying for any public defender. But why is this important? This is the most damning evidence of it all. This is the case file on Missouri CaseNet for Gypsy Blanchard. That's BlanchardE if you want to look it up. Case number 1531-CR03591, State versus Gypsy R. Blanchard. If you see here, warrant is issued for Gypsy Blanchard on June 16, 2015. An entry of appearance was filed by Mike Stanfield that same day. But Gypsy was in Wisconsin and couldn't get an entry of appearance for a public defender there until June 17th. What is the point in all of this? Well, given that Gypsy was in Wisconsin at the time and hadn't been charged or arrested for the murder initially until the morning of June 16, it's impossible that Mike Stanfield did an entry of appearance for Gypsy. As a paralegal in Missouri, I've observed how public defenders and their offices function, which leads me to explain why this is the case. While incarcerated in Wisconsin, Gypsy lacked access to a Missouri public defender application. Obtaining one would have required favoritism, as it has necessitated effort from the correctional officers. Following her interrogation, it became common knowledge among them that this alleged murderer was cunning, making it improbable that they would go out of their way to assist her. Should an officer go out of their way to help Gypsy submit an application from the Missouri website, they would still face the challenge of urgency faxing it back. Given that public defenders' offices require a minimum of 3 days to process applications due to being understaffed and funded by taxpayer money, this poses a significant delay. However, if a defendant is already scheduled for a preliminary hearing, they have the opportunity to apply for a public defender while waiting for their turn in court. In such a case, a public defender present at the hearing could quickly review and approve the application on the same day as they enter in their appearance. It may be an unpopular view, but what's even more intriguing is that Nick Godejohn wasn't assigned a public defender until July 1st in Missouri, despite Gypsy Rose denying involvement and Nick admitting guilt during his interrogation. This case garnered national attention, highlighting the contrast between Nick's delayed legal representation and Gypsy seemingly getting her way before the proceedings were formalized. Why did Nick have to wait over 2 weeks for legal assistance while Gypsy appeared to navigate the system more swiftly? How does this make sense? Nick was collecting a disability check while Gypsy had conned the whole world for thousands of dollars for years. Let's discuss unconventional legal strategies. As a paralegal, I find it highly unprofessional for any attorney and their team to publicly disclose their client's identity online in an attempt to sway public opinion and garner sympathy. Interestingly, this occurred on June 17th. Furthermore, it raises questions about how Stanfield was appointed as her public defender. This situation is a complete mess. Additionally, Stanfield's defense for Gypsy was filled with falsehoods, but we're all aware of his actions, so there is no need to delve into that now.
Missouri woman who fled to Big Bend, Wisconsin after her mother's murder has been sentenced to 10 years behind bars. 24-year-old Gypsy Blanchard pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in Dee Blanchard, her mother's death. Blanchard's attorney says her mother forced Gypsy to pretend like she was disabled for years. Gypsy's boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn of Big Bend, is accused of stabbing Dee. He faces trial in November.
Let's discuss the plea deal that Stanfield negotiated with Patterson, despite knowing Gypsy's guilt from a desk of evidence and a video showing her instructing Nick on how to stab Dee, known as the Training to Murder video. Stanfield advised Gypsy to accept the plea deal as her only chance for future freedom. Moreover, Stanfield benefited from his high-profile case, not by becoming a partner at a prestigious firm, but by establishing his own private practice. Stanfield maintained a close friendship with Gypsy and her family throughout the 8.5 years. Stanfield, who is no longer working for Gypsy, breached ethical standards by falsely claiming to be Gypsy's attorney to her parole officer on the day of her release, when she was instructed to head to Louisiana to see her new parole officer. This is especially concerning given the conflict of interest, as Stanfield and his wife Corinne were present at the party hosted by the Blanchards on the day of Gypsy's release, an event that included adult entertainers and alcohol. Additionally, Trevor Harrison, where were you in all of this? She remained in Missouri under your supervision, which suggests she believes she's exempt from the law. You told her to go to Louisiana and report, but yet you didn't stomp her for the fit that she threw and the party that she threw with the booze and the sex dancers. So what other ethical breaches did Stanfield commit? He appointed himself as Gypsy's career manager, a serious offense that should be reported to the Missouri Bar Association. As for evidence, I've discovered 2 LLCs connected to Gypsy, both registered at an address in Springfield, Missouri, which is also the location of Stanfield Law LLC. This connection is highly incriminating. Stanfield, your actions warrant disbarment, fraud charges, and possibly even charges for money laundering. You should be held accountable. This situation explains how Gypsy has been able to evade all consequences. This video is all alleged, in my opinion only. You are watching Trixie Lane. Please like and subscribe to watch any future videos. Thank you.